If you are like me, wiring is the most painful and boring part of building any 3D printer. Nonetheless, it has to be done. Really, the most important aspect of our wiring has to do with the extruder assembly and how those cables are connected together, bundled together, and then eventually connected back to the main board. Here I'm attaching the cooling fan extension cable to the small fan cable on the heatsink fan. Next, I can attach the NEMA 17 motor cable. Next, we can cut the zip tie, which is holding the bundle of wires for the thermistor and heater cartridge cables together. We're going to need to grab the spiral wrap out of the kit, and I'm going to start wrapping it around the thermistor and heater cartridge cables for the hot end. These cables have a few inches of space before they're able to meet up with the rest of the cables for this assembly. Next, I will grab the remainder of the Teflon tube that came in with the hot end and use 2 zip ties to attach it to the 20mm long M3 screw that we put into the sheet metal mount for the extruder in an earlier step. This Teflon tube is going to provide strain relief for these wires. This is really important for the XY gantry because it has moving components, and we wouldn't want anything to accidentally snag a wire and pull it completely loose and cause a whole bunch of issues. Next, I can keep working the spiral wrap up the hot end cables until they're just about long enough where we can bunch all of the cables together and also wrap in the Teflon tube. We'll use a zip tie to attach all of those cables, again more securely to the Teflon tube. To be respectful of your time, I will not keep all the footage of me wrapping the spiral wrap around the cables in the video, but you can use your imagination of what that might look like. Once everything is wrapped up nicely, we need to attach the wire strain relief mount to the bottom 2020 V-slot extrusion in the frame. Here I'm using a drop-in T-slot nut. It's a little bit easier, and because this isn't something that's going to need to slide back and forth and adjust, it's totally fine here to use this nut instead of one of the slide-in T-slot nuts. Next, we will use 2 zip ties to attach the wire bundle and the Teflon tube to the wire strain relief mount, making sure that it's good and tight. Next, we need to spiral wrap the heater cables for the heated bed, as well as the thermistor cable. Those can all be bundled together and wrapped nicely. In some of the first batch of kits that were shipped, some users reported that some of the pixels on the LCD screen seemed a bit scrambled, something like this. This was traced back to an issue with the end stops, creating a slight short within the wiring. To fix this, all we need to do is swap the white and red cables on one end of the cables connecting the end stops to the main control board. This is pretty easy to do. I just took a small screwdriver and pushed down on the pins for the red and white cables, and then was able to swap them and put them back in place. All the rest of the wiring should be relatively straightforward. The board is labeled where everything needs to be connected, but to help out a little bit more, you can follow this image to connect everything properly. This image will also be on our website where you can find any details and updates that happen over time. Once everything is connected to the control board, we can move on to our next step, attaching the conveyor belt to the printer.